Welcome to the Ho Ho Show.
Rated the #1 most listened to podcast on Pluto. So join us now as we discuss news, politics, current events, and so much more. So clear the airways and strap in as we
Defend the Constitution, because freedom matters.
broadcasting live from the Kida studio. Welcome to the Ho Ho Show, and as always, I'm your host, Ho Ho. So how y'all's doing? I hope you're doing good. I really do. Man, I tell you what, 3 weeks is a long time to go without doing a show. You know, I had a cough that I just couldn't get rid of, like 2 days straight of just coughing. And it definitely damaged the vocal cords. It took it a little while for it to heal. And it was funny because Linda was like, Miss Linda Irwin was like, you know, you should have had some Tussin. And I'm like, that's a fantastic, I should have had some Tussin. I would have been able to get rid of this a heck of a lot quicker if I just would have had some Tussin. So, yeah, and I would have done a show yesterday, not doing one today, but unfortunately, I had a power issue. Yeah, we had a storm come through Thursday. And it knocked, oh man, it was bad for Illinois. I forget how many, and hello MNC over there in YouTube land. Good to see it. And by the way, Dave Canyon from Dumbing It Down with Dave was the first one to comment on today's episode 20 minutes before I, went live. I was like, oh, he's in there already. That's amazing. So yeah, dude, kudos. Anyway, so I had the storm come through and went over to the house to grab the dog afterwards. And that's whenever I discovered that, like a good section of the tree came down right onto the stinking power line. So I called up Amber. I'm like, hey, I have an issue. I know power's out anyway, but even still, I have a down line. So I need you guys to come over and unhook it. This way I can, fix the damage and have you guys turn it back on again. But unfortunately, this happened like right before I was leaving town to head over to Indianapolis. And I wasn't going to make it back until Friday afternoon. I got back Friday afternoon. Got the damage fixed. Called up Ameren and said, hey, I got it fixed. I'm ready to go ahead and get reconnected. And they were like, well, about that, it's going to be a while. I was like, well, crap. And she told me how many people were without power. I was like, wow, that many. It was a lot. It was a lot of people. I guess that storm was pretty bad and caused a lot of power to go out. And yeah, it was bad. It was bad. And they were like, yeah, it was going to be Sunday afternoon before we can get anybody out there to you around noon-ish. And I'm like, okay, well, fine. I wasn't happy about it, but it's like, I get it. Them guys are busy. They had a lot going on. So I had a crew show up like last night, actually, to go ahead and get my power turned back on. They were over in the area to grab somebody else and happened to see that I was out. My line was gone. And so they were like, yeah, so we're going to be in the backyard for a little while. I'm like, whoa, what? Wait, what? Really? This is awesome. You alls are amazing. So, they got me hooked up early. I thought that was pretty awesome. MNC said, took out my niece's house in Chatham. Really? Man. Yeah, that storm was pretty messed up. And the guys that came to reconnect me, they told me that there was a storm. It was either that day or it was Friday. So it was either Friday or Saturday. Storm went through in Missouri and caused a bunch of damage too. They were actually a crew that was out of, or at least he was out of Oklahoma. I was like, wow, you guys do some traveling. Holy crap. So yeah. So, just a lot of damage going out. I haven't heard anything about anybody getting hurt or anything like that. So that's at least good. I haven't heard anything like that, but hopefully, everything turns out good. They get people taken care of as quickly as possible. Storm was pretty bad in this area. So yeah, that happened. That happened. So 3 weeks without doing a show. Holy cow. Kind of sucked, because there was so much going on. Just a lot of stuff. And this just past week has been some pretty interesting stuff going on too. We're going to be talking a lot today about the Supreme Court, some of the decisions that's been coming down from them, because them guys have been busy with their, with doing some stuff before they go on vacations. Most of it's good, but still something that is pretty stinking bad. And we're going to get to that in the last segment. I might break it up a little bit because, there's quite a bit of stuff to go through. MNC puts in here, he goes, had some rain yesterday, but nothing else for a week here. Well, that's one of them good/bad things. Nothing but, we're pretty much at that time of the year where we're going to start needing some rain for crops, at least at any rate, so I know where we're at here. Like getting rain this time of the year. We can go without the high winds though. We definitely can go without that stuff. But anyway, let's go ahead and dive right into it. I do have something I'm wanting to talk about at the end of the show. A little bit of housekeeping stuff, something that surprised the holy crap out of me. But like I said, we'll get into that towards the end of the show. So let's go ahead and dive into this article from the Washington Examiner. Now, look, you guys know where my passion is, all right? And it's written right here. Defending the Constitution. That is the heart and soul of this podcast, this show, this radio, TV-ish thing. I don't even know what this is. What would you call this? I have no idea. It's like TV-ish, radio-ish, internet, radio, podcast, I don't know what this is. Anyway, y'all know what my passion is. My passion is the Constitution, right? I'm going to be honest with you. I hate politics. I really do. And I know here I am doing a politics, news, current events, and issues show. That's what this is. But I hate politics because politics isn't about what it should be. And it's about doing the right thing, about doing what's right. Podcast. That's what MNC says. He says, this is a podcast. All right, podcast. I'll go with that. And he separated the pod and the cast. Kind of what we're doing, casting and podding all at the same time. And we are actually. That's kind of funny. Simulcasting, multicasting, whatever you want to call it. Anyway. Politics isn't about what it should be. All too often, it's about the money. That's what it's about. And that to me just doesn't sit right. I mean, it really doesn't. It's about who's got the most money. It's not about what's right or wrong. Let me give you a local example of stuff that has happened right here where I'm from. Where my mom lives, the house that I grew up in, we had an issue, at least once every single year due to rain, because we would get, a good, gully gusher rain at least once a year. And, every single year, the basement would flood. Okay. The rain would come in right through the drain, right up from the drain, a little bit of seepage in from the wall, but primarily up through the drain, and flood the basement. Like I said, every year, at least once, if not twice. It wasn't a question of if, it was a question of when it was going to happen. Okay. And one year in particular, we had sewage floating up in the basement. We had little floaties. Mr. Hanky said hi. Howdy, how you doing? Doing pretty good. That's right. I am. I'm doing pretty stinking good. Yes, nasty and disgusting. Because in our town, and definitely in the block that we were at, or at least, the area that we were at, the drainage and the sewage was all one line. This is a health concern. Especially something that regularly happens every single year without question. You would think that something that is an obvious health concern, that they would want to fix that. And they would want to fix it quick. And it's not like the town overall doesn't have the money to fix it. Especially considering, and again, this is politicking here. We have a prison that went up in my hometown, or at least, right there outside it, but it's still on, it's still on city water. And last I knew, the prison's been there for a while and they've yet to pay a power bill. Or I'm sorry, not a power bill, but a water bill. Can't seem to turn them off. Why? Because I guess that would be just inhumane. So wait a second. You can turn me off for not paying my bill, and that's not humane. But evidently, if the state doesn't want to pay the bill for the water, then, well, you can't turn them off because that would be humane. Well, doesn't the humanity of the issue go to the state because they're supposed to be paying the bill? Something's not quite right here, and maybe we can get some stuff accomplished that we need to get accomplished, or at least be able to do it better if the state were to pay their bills. But no, it's politicking. They don't seem to do that. And again, they would much rather spend money over here doing this instead of taking care of something over here that is a health risk, something that you think they would want to get taken care of. Anyway, that's why I despise politics. Defend the Constitution. That's what we do here. So this article from the Washington Examiner, headline, Biden loses ghost gun case, ATF ban unlawful. Yeah. Now this, we're going to talk a little bit more about this a little bit later whenever we go into, Supreme Court cases and things that they have been doing as of recently, because this is really going to come full circle on this last segment. But I'm wanting to set it up right here. Biden loses the ghost gun case. ATF ban unlawful. As it should be. We have this thing called the Second Amendment. It's very clear what it says. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, even though they seem to infringe upon them every single chance they get. Now, it says that they can't infringe upon that law. See, this is what's kind of interesting. Okay, you have the First Amendment with the freedom of religion, that Congress shall pass no law infringing religion, the exercise, and all this other kind of stuff. That puts limitations on Congress as far as writing laws goes. But there's no such ban on, the executive branch hindering. Well, Second Amendment doesn't make that distinction. And even if they did make that distinction, it really doesn't matter because the executive branch doesn't have the power to write laws. They still have to adhere to the Constitution. So I'm glad that finally, not finally, because we've been seeing this more and more, but they uphold, and this wasn't from the Supreme Court. This was a federal judge that upheld this. A federal judge upheld that you can't do nothing about ghost guns. Okay, now here's the thing. A ghost gun, or at least a gun that there's several different ways you can do a ghost gun. Okay, 3D printing. You can just simply make one yourself. You can, take what is classified as an 80% lower on an AR-15. You can finish it out. You can buy the barrel. You can make the barrel, do whatever you need to with the barrel. There you go. You have a legal firearm. The illegal part about a ghost gun isn't in the owning of a ghost gun. It's in the sale of a ghost gun. Because with a ghost gun, the part about it is, which they don't like it, is because it's untraceable. They don't like that. They like everything being neatly packaged up to where they can easily trace it and figure out, what gun did it in order to, attach a perp to a crime. They like to do that. And I get it for the sake of law enforcement. I really do. But the crime with ghost guns isn't in ownership or even possession. It's in the sale. You can't sell them because you can't track them. You can't trace them. So here you go. A win for the Constitution through a federal judge. I was kind of like, that's pretty cool. Now, as we go into, or at least as the talks continue and go into, smart homes and, getting away from paper currency and going into digital currency, this, that, and the other. I'm sure that Russia has confirmed, whenever they shut down or whenever their currency was shut down and whatnot, there is, questions behind, given that kind of power, how government would use it. The same thing kind of goes whenever you're talking, with electric vehicles. Okay. Ooh, Dave puts in there, he goes, for the sake of law enforcement and crime prevention, I get it too. Yeah. And I do. I get it. I get why they would want to, track it, why they would want that, to track it to, okay. Not necessarily to track the gun, but to be able to connect using forensics and whatnot, to be able to attach a round or a shell casing to a gun. That I most definitely, I can understand. I could even agree with. I don't like the idea of having to register your firearm. You start registering firearms and then you give the government everything that they need in order to hunt you down within your own home. I don't have to register to breathe. I don't have to register my soda. I don't have to do that, and you shouldn't have to. But I definitely understand, with, the rifling and different things in order to attach a round or a shell casing to a gun in order to do that. I totally get it. Howdy ho ho, no registration ever. And I agree with that. There shouldn't be registration. There really shouldn't be registration. Because it's, like I said, it's one step away from you turning into a criminal just because the government deemed you a criminal. If you're not breaking a law, if you're not doing anything wrong, then a police officer doesn't have the right to question you not that they don't have the right to question you, but they don't have the right to detain you or to take away your freedom. Because a cop isn't okay, here's the thing. You see, this was one of my huge beefs whenever you're talking about the COVID lockdowns, okay? An officer of the law is just that. A police officer is an officer of the law, not an officer of regulations, not an officer of mandates, an officer of law. The same thing goes in here. If you're not violating the law, if you're not breaking the law, if you're not doing that, then an officer has, you have no power here. You shall not pass. Whatever. They don't have the right to do that. They are law enforcement officers. Like with the COVID regulations, they don't have the right to say you have to wear a mask. No, this isn't a law. This isn't something that went through Congress. This isn't something that got passed by the governor or the president. You're a law enforcement officer, not a regulation enforcement officer. They don't have the right to detain you. So if you ain't broke a law, you ain't broke a law. Puts in here, you have the right to refuse to answer, the Fifth Amendment. Absolutely. You have the right against self-incrimination. Yeah, I chose the right word on that. Yes. Dave puts in here, goes, with my limited knowledge, experience, and understanding of the big picture, I can't say I agree or disagree, but I appreciate your opinion. Well, thank you, sir. And that's one of the things we're doing here. We're trying to educate people, trying to let them know what's going on. Definitely trying to do that. So this article from the Daily Caller, Amazon confirms that they shut off a man's smart home because a random guy said he was racist. Now, how ridiculous is that? Now, look, okay, let me get this one thing straight right here, right now. I'm not racist. I find it ugly and absolutely wrong. However, you have the right to be a racist. You do. And how much power are we giving different companies? How much power are we willing to give the government to just be able to shut off somebody's home because a random guy said you're racist? And it's not like the guy was caught posting racist comments on social media and then he got banned or booted off of a platform. No, just a random guy said that he's racist, and without anything, or at least I haven't gone into the article at all, because the headline was enough to make me go, this is freaking ridiculous. They shut him off. How much control are we really? They're a private company. They can do what they want. No, they can't. No, they can't. They have a responsibility. Okay? They have a responsibility. My home is my home. If I'm using my home or the smart devices I have in my home, you have no right to do this crap. If it's a subscription-based thingy-jigger, service that I'm getting, then, and I'm paying my bill, who are you to shut me down? This right here, it's sad because we know that the government would actually do this. We know that they would. That's one of the reasons why by the year, 2030, the federal government is wanting virtually every single vehicle to be an electronic vehicle. We already know that Tesla can shut off any vehicle they want. They have full control and autonomy over their vehicles. They can shut you down. They have the ability to do that. I kind of like the idea of having an old car because guess what? They can't do that to me. Not at all. To me, this is ugly on his face because they're shutting somebody down because the thought police, and they don't like what this guy was thinking or how somebody else perceived him to be. The Bill of Rights also protects against unreasonable search and seizures. Absolutely. The Fourth Amendment, which would fall under this Amazon thing, I would think, I definitely think that too. Your assets were removed without any trial. Yeah. And that's the thing. Not really your asset, but it was a service, a service that you were paying for that they had no cause, they had no right, they had no reason. And truth be told, this is something that you shouldn't be able to do. Okay. You're talking a smart home. You mean to tell me in my own home, my own property, there's something that I am paying for, using a service that I am paying for, that you're just going to shut me off for apparently no reason whatsoever. And this isn't even, this isn't even okay, yes, it is a Fourth Amendment. I'll go along with that. Unreasonable search and seizure. But again, this is a First Amendment thing. It's like what? I don't have the right to, be a racist. I'll stand next to a racist and say, yeah, you absolutely have the right to be a racist. Now that guy over there has a right to punch you in the face if they don't like what it is you're saying, but you got the right to be stupid and you have the right to be wrong. That guy's going to be held accountable for his actions. You're going to be held accountable for the words coming out of your mouth. But that's not to say you ain't got the right to be racist. But with this, a service that a man is paying for, that's like calling the power company, paying your bill, and them just showing up at your house and shutting you down. Why? Because they don't like a sign you put in your yard. Trump 2024, and they disconnect you from the power line because they don't support Trump. This is the same stinking thing, guys. It's the same thing. It's like what? I paid my bill. That right there, I would actually take that a different step. I would go as far as to say that is theft. What Amazon did right there, what Amazon, admitted to doing, that's theft. absolutely theft. Was just mentioned to me that they could consider the contract as right to refuse service. Absolutely. Breach of contract. Absolutely. Absolutely. Moving on. Now, this next article, I know we're tired of hearing about it. I get it. This has been filling up the news for quite some time, but there actually has been some new things that has surfaced talking about the COVIDs. This headline from Hot Air, more evidence that COVID was created, not natural. And not only that, there's clear evidence that COVID absolutely was a lab leak in Wuhan. That's been confirmed. At least 2 people, there might have been more. I remember at least hearing 2 people that, that got it, escaped. And, as we all know, China didn't do anything for the international spread or the global spread, just their own national spread of COVID whenever they shut, air travel down to other districts, but they still allowed international travel. They knew what was going on. They absolutely knew what was going on. But more evidence has been, coming out, they're still investigating it. They're still looking into it. Scientists are still looking at it and, doing their tests and whatnot. But they were like, yeah, this was definitely created in a lab. Not only that, it's even been confirmed. We talked about this before. Marked safe from vax. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't get the vaccine. Yeah. But yeah, there's been a lot of evidence that's been surfacing on this. I definitely invite people to, look that stuff up and definitely educate yourself. I actually have to laugh. Okay. Because I did an episode back in first few months of 2022. The title of the episode was WTF, and you're not going to find this episode on YouTube because it has been banned for medical misinformation, or at least that's what they classified it as. The weekend that they removed this video and gave me that strike for medical misinformation, earlier that week, it had actually come out that, everything that we've been saying since, more or less the beginning of this, the skepticism, the stuff that they don't like us to talk about, well, it was all true. Masks being ineffective, social distancing ineffective, keeping our children home from school completely ineffective, that the vaccine was not nearly as effective as they wanted to claim, and in fact actually hurt your immune system's ability to combat the severe cold. The lab leak, all of that. Right after all of it became public knowledge and fact that, yeah, this is how things actually went down. It was just a few days after that they shut down, removed, and gave me a strike for medical misinformation on the episode entitled WTF. You're giving me a strike for medical misinformation whenever everything that I talked about on that video, regardless of the timeline, after the strike, it was confirmed that everything I said was accurate and true. Just because it's inconvenient for the left doesn't mean that it's misinformation. Yeah. Moving on. Now, this next headline, I'm going to skip that one. I'm going to skip this one. Yeah, I'm going to skip this. This is from justthenews.com. I'm going to give you the headline just because, hey, why not? But China likely sending military personnel into U.S. Homeland Chair says. China likely sending military personnel into the U.S. This really shouldn't surprise anybody. Okay, I've talked about this a little bit before. Okay. China actually owns one, if not two, of, I believe, the 3 deep sea ports that we have in the United States. I mean, yes, there's a lot of ports in the United States, but what's classified as a deep sea port is a little bit different than some of the other ports, okay? They definitely owned 1, if not 2, of the 3, and I think there's only 3 what's classified as deep water ports in the U.S. There are stuff in these ports that, according to people who work at the dock and Port Authority, that the only thing that could be in these containers are tanks that has come from various places, China being one of them. I mean, doesn't it make sense that if China owns a deep sea port to send the stuff that they would need to facilitate an invasion of the homeland, just to ship it over here and have waiting for them for whenever they got here? I mean, logistically speaking, that would be ingenious. You know, if the government is going to be stupid enough to allow you to buy a deep water port at the mainland, and then for you not to use that, especially whenever one of the things you like to do is play war games on the best ways to invade the homeland, invade the United States of America, wouldn't you consider that pretty stupid to not utilize that? Yeah. So just food for thought. I'm not saying anything, you know. I don't know anything. I don't know anything at all. But if you take a temperature of what's going on in the world. Look, guys, World War I started from events that took place within 1 week. 7 days. We went from everything is A-okay to some people doing some stuff. 1 week later, World War I. That's how the whole thing started. 1 week. It doesn't take much for temperatures to flare. Sometimes one small misunderstanding can cause a bunch of things to go wrong quickly. Just food for thought. Keep your eyes and ears open. You know, don't treat these things as, you know, out of the frying pan and into the fryer. You know, don't be like a frog that's sitting in the, you know, or a lobster or a crab or whatever that will just sit there in a boiling pot of water and allow the temperature to heat up. You know, there's a Dante's Peak, I think it was, a movie, Pierce Brosnan in it, you know. There was a cinema in here. It was about Dante's Peak, about a volcano. They were like, you know, if we just came here today, then we would look at everything going on and go and say, let's evacuate this place now. Everything has been heating up slowly, steadily, but assuredly, and we know where this leads. We need to get out of here now. But since we've been here for a while, we're not seeing the forest through the trees. We're allowing the pot to boil and to cook us, all while we're just sitting here doing as sheep do. Keep your eyes open. Pay attention. Don't be caught surprised. You know what I'm saying? Don't be caught surprised. We're going to go ahead and take our first break. When we get back, we're going to start into some Trump stuff because we definitely got some Trump stuff to talk about. Things what's going on. We're going to talk about it briefly in a little bit, and then we're going to get into Biden, and then we're going to finish up with the Supreme Court. So just a couple minutes and I will be right back. Don't go nowhere. Have you ever had an ailment that a normal over-the-counter remedy just couldn't fight? If this is the case, then boy, have I got the solution for you. Tussin. That's right, Tussin. Cough? Tussin. Cold? Tussin. Runny nose? Tussin. Itchy watery eyes? Tussin. Broken leg? Tussin. Tussin is the ultimate cure-all, guaranteed to stop anything that ails you. Tussin. Available wherever OTCs are sold. Welcome back. And yes, that one goes out to Miss Linda Irwin. Tussin. Guaranteed to cure anything that ails you. Got a message in here saying, what is that music? Makes me want to move units around the map. Yeah. That buddy of mine, Mr. M&C over there, he got me hooked on this app on my phone, Music Maker Jam. And, you know, whenever I got tired of the copyright strikes and whatnot, and I'm like, you know, there's got to be a way to do something. And he got me hooked on using that, and that's where I've made all the music. You know, I've taken the tracks and mixed them together and made them, and there you go. That's pretty much all the music is from that app, you know, and it's from him, Music Maker Jam. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, because now we're going to, you know, y'all know how I normally like to start the show. I like to throw a little satire into it. I like to, you know, just go above and beyond. You know what I'm saying? So this headline from Babylon Bee, we're going to start this puppy off right. Trump indicted in New York for eating a pizza cooked in a wood-burning oven. This is one of them joke, not joke things, maybe, because that's one of the things that New York is actually talking about doing is banning different types of ovens. I mean, you've heard that they wanted to ban gas stoves. They wanted to ban, there was a couple other things that they were wanting to ban. And you know, New York is doing the wood burning oven thing, which is like, dude, okay, New York, and you're wanting to ban wood burning ovens. New York, kind of like Chicago, you know, they're known for their pizza. Okay. And the last thing you want to do is anger Michelangelo, Raphael, Donatello, and Leonardo. You don't want to do that. And especially Michelangelo. He's a little unhinged. He's a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to mess with these guys. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles loves their freaking pizza. All right? You don't want to mess with the New Yorker and their pizza. You don't want to do that. It's going to be a bad day. You just don't. Just don't. So yeah, this is satire, obviously. But you know what? It is very accurate, depicting the temperature of the room that they will just, it's like, this is what they're doing. They're throwing spaghetti on the wall, seeing what can actually stick. That's what they're doing. And that leads me to this headline right here. No, not that headline. This headline. Yeah, this headline. From Trending Politics, Jack Smith is ready to drop. Now, one article I seen said 30 to 45. This one just flat says 45. More charges on Trump. Okay, now look. It's kind of like this. This is kind of what they're doing. All right. You mow the yard. You mow the yard once. But you cut like tens of thousands of blades of grass. So they're going to get you for murdering tens of thousands of blades of grass. You just cut the yard once. I knew this whole thing was bull crap the first time I seen a picture from, of the documents that the FBI found in Mar-a-Lago. I knew that the whole thing was crap on the very first picture that I seen. Go back into the Wayback Machine, 88 miles an hour, the flux capacitor, 1.21 gigawatts of electricity later. We're not even going to worry about standing on the toilet, falling and slipping and bumping our head and seeing the flux capacitor. We're just going to go right to the flux capacitor. I don't know about you, but the first picture that I seen, and I'm sure that I could actually find it, back in the archive of the articles that I have used, but the first one I remember seeing. Now, go back with me now. What did we see? A bunch of articles, a bunch of pieces of paper scattered out on the floor, and some journalist taking a picture of it, or at least, a newspaper getting that picture and posting it. I knew it was crap right then and there, because they're not going to allow that, state secrets, sensitive material, things that is actually classified. They're not going to let that get leaked to they're not going to let that get leaked to the press. I knew that first picture, this whole thing was Bravo Sierra right then and there, because if it's classified documents that he's being accused of having, they're not going to take a picture of it and share it to the entire world. Then it wouldn't be classified anymore. It's public knowledge. I knew it was crap right then and there. And if you don't believe me on this whole entire thing being very one-sided, and I'm not even at this point, I'm not even talking about the whole aspect of, the whataboutisms, or the, if this is really about justice, then they would go after Hunter Biden. They would go after Joe Biden. They would go after Joe Biden's brother. They'd go after Hillary Clinton, heaven forbid. But they would. But this isn't about justice. This is about politically attacking. Anyway, this headline from Reuters, Reuters. I can't pronounce words. I don't know what it is. U.S. judge orders Trump lawyers not to release evidence in documents probe. Isn't this just fundamentally wrong? A judge is ordering the lawyer of the defense not to release evidence in a documents probe. Isn't that kind of like the prosecution, through the authority of the federal judge, not allowing the defense access to the videotapes from the Capitol during the January 6th trials? That's not justice. That's not equal protection. It's not equal rights. It's not equal accountability. It's not equal anything. We have a problem here. Man, I got to be honest with you. Sounds like communist to me. Absolutely. I got to be honest with you about this. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this whenever we're talking about Biden, because this is more so of where it's relevant. I'm like 40. Crap, how old am I? Like 44, I think. I think I'm 44. I'm pretty sure. I'm 44. How did we get from the Constitution, okay? How do we get to, from let's just say 240 years ago, being the land of the free, home of the brave? How do we get from a point of freedom to a point of Russia? When a Korean immigrant from North Korea says that we do indoctrination better than North Korea does, a communist nation, then there's something wrong with how we, how our approach to education. Back in the day, whenever I was first going to school, up until sometime in my late junior high, early high school days, education was about teaching people how to think. They're going to teach you, relevant things, this, that, and the other. They still might not teach full truth in history, but at least they're still teaching you how to think. To how they do education now is teaching you what to think. I mean, we don't have critical thinking being taught in our schools. Now, granted, okay, I was born after the establishment of the Department of Education, but even still, they hadn't quite transitioned out of education and into an indoctrination by the time I graduated. They hadn't done that fully yet. But how did we go from that to what? How did we go from freedom to communism in such a short amount of time? I don't get it. I don't. I do. I get it. It's through design. Absolutely it is. But I get it though. Us as a population, we're busy. We have things to do. We got to go to work. We got to earn money. We got to pay the bills, Dave Patiner goes, pronounce Reuters. Reuters. Oh, all right. Reuters. All right. Thank you, by the way. Considering I still have a hard time with CBS versus NBC, the I or the Peacock, I still have issues with that. I'm probably not going to remember, but hopefully I do. Reuters, that's a lot easier than remembering, a Peacock or an eyeball. I think the eyeball is CBS and the Peacock is NBC. I'm thinking that's how it is. I could be wrong, but I'm thinking CBS is the eyeball and NBC is the Peacock. If I'm wrong, let me know. But anyway, how did we go from that post-Revolutionary War to effectively communism and socialism and fascism? All three knocking on our door right now. All three of them. I don't get it. And even though I did bring up, Miss Hillary Clinton, This headline from Newsmax, Representative Mouser said to Newsmax that Hillary Clinton's dox scandal was so much worse. You know, one of the things that they're talking about with this whole classified information thing, or one of the things that they're wanting to throw on President Trump, is that, you know, it was obstruction. Okay. Regardless of whether he was president, classified anything, there was still obstruction, in which case I can understand that. All right. I'm not going to say that he is, you know, that he didn't obstruct. But here's the thing, though. Obstruction has to be attached to a crime in order for it to really be classified as obstruction. You know, that's kind of like during an FBI investigation, just to say that you lied to the FBI cannot be used as the sole reason for an investigation, or for opening an investigation, or for criminal prosecution, or any of that kind of crap. Kind of like how it was back in the day that you can get a ticket for not wearing your seatbelt, but you couldn't get pulled over for not wearing your seatbelt. It had to be attached to another crime. The same thing goes here whenever you're talking about obstruction. All he's doing is defending his rights unless they can actually attach obstruction to another crime. It doesn't exist otherwise. It doesn't. People stop paying attention to local politics too. Yeah, and we're all guilty of it. We are. You know, I don't pay a whole heck of a lot of attention to local politics. Not until I read something that says, hey, they already did something that you could have stopped, and now it's a little too late because, you know, now it's, you know, your rights are now violated. And yeah, I get it. You know, we just don't, you know, I said it before, you know, we have a constitution. Where'd that thing go? It's right here. We have a constitution, all right? Our representatives, I'm not going to call them leaders because they're not, they're representatives. We don't work for them. They don't rule over us. They work for us. They don't rule over us. They're not our leaders. They are our servants. That's technically speaking what a president is. He's a butler. He's Jeffrey. He's not King Philip. He's Jeffrey. He's the butler. What's Bruce Wayne's butler? Oh, good grief. I really should know this. I'm wanting to say Walter. I don't think it's Walter. I don't remember what it is. It doesn't matter. You know, the president's a servant. He's our butler. Okay. He's not our king. He's not a ruler. He's our servant. He represents us on a global stage. We're going to be talking about that stuff a little bit more later. But the thing is, okay, with Hillary's scandal, there was Alfred. Brian, thank you and welcome over there in YouTube land. Good to see you, sir. Alfred, I should have known that. What? Anyway. Clinton's document scandal was way worse than what Trump's was. It just was. I'm just saying facts, okay? They found through like 33,000 emails that they were able to go through, they still found a bunch of classified information, and that's not even talking about the 30+ thousand emails that Hillary Clinton deleted after those emails were subpoenaed. That's not talking about the devices, the SIM cards, the hard drives, the phones that were destroyed after the subpoena requesting all of this. That's when they were destroyed. They were like, oh, holy crap. That is obstruction. And yet, no prosecutor in their right mind would go after Clinton for what happened. I mean, yeah, she violated the law. Yeah, she should be punished accordingly. Yeah, she definitely broke all this. They never once talked about obstruction, even though she clearly obstructed the investigation through her actions. And you can't tell me that she didn't know that what she was doing wasn't wrong. I mean, hello. She knew what she was doing. She knew what she was doing. Trump is dangerous to the establishment, abso-freaking-lutely. He did and does support vax, so I don't trust him either. But here's the thing, though, of what Trump was doing. Now, here's the thing. I'm not trying to change your opinion. I'm just trying to give you perspective on this, okay? I'm not going to say that I'm anti-vax. I'm anti-this vax. The science of vaccines, for the most part, is sound, okay? It truly is. It's sound. But I've not taken a flu shot since I got out of school. Now, notice I said flu shot, not a flu vaccine. I'm anti-shot just for the sake of taking a shot. I'm not necessarily anti-vaccine. I'm anti-shot. I don't take the flu shot because, for the most part, my immune system is pretty healthy, and anything I can get, I might suffer through some congestion. I might suffer through some pain. I might suffer through, symptoms. But my immune system is healthier for it. I used to eat dirt whenever I was a kid. Unfortunately, I played football and got crap in my mouth because I got tackled through the dirt whenever my mouth was open. Not a good thing. I don't recommend it. It tastes like shit. I don't recommend it. Crap ain't good. But a vaccine is a vaccine and a shot is a shot. The COVID vaccine isn't a vaccine. It's a shot. They're trying to account for what could be coming, not, while utilizing what has been and, whatever. Okay. We're not talking about a smallpox vaccine. I'm all good, fine, and dandy about a smallpox vaccine. Vaccines work. This ain't a vaccine. It's a shot. But, Trump did the best with what he can do using the best information that he had at the time. I mean, mind you, whenever this was first going on, he didn't know. He didn't know. Thought he was doing the right thing. And, I'm sure that now I haven't actually listened to anything, recently on vaccine, his position on the vaccine. So I really can't say I don't know. It's not something that I've really heard him talk about, But I'm not anti-vax, but I am anti-shot. I see no reason to get a flu shot. I see no reason to get a COVID shot. I just don't see the reason to do that. But again, talk to your doctor. Find out what's best for you, but I still recommend staying away from the COVID one. But anyway, back to this whole document scandal. Hillary Clinton was guilty of sin. On national TV, the FBI confirmed that she broke the law. Shortly thereafter, we found about more information that was released to the press that showed really that she broke the law. Holy crap. But they stated on national TV as part of their report that yes, she broke the law. No, there hasn't been a trial. I don't know if you can really say allegedly or not. No, she did it. She even confessed on national TV to some of it as well. Oh, you mean cleaned it with a rag? Idiot. Point of the matter is, Washington Examiner, Restoring America, this headline, did the Trump document case just get weaker? Here's the thing. We know enough information on this. We really do. We know more than what we did in the very beginning. You can't claim that there's equal application of the law whenever you have such glaring differences between how they have chosen to handle this in the past with other people that have been caught with classified documents and them going to prison, getting prosecuted, and how they handled Hillary Clinton's misuse of classified documents, classified information, and emails and everything else. Excuse me. In the entirety of the Obama administration. And they don't like to talk about that because everybody that sent classified documents via HillaryClinton.Clinton.com, they all committed the same crime that Hillary Clinton did. You know, this wasn't like it was a crime that was only committed by Hillary Clinton. Everybody that sent to Clinton to @Clinton.com committed a crime too, because that was mishandling of classified information. It was an unsecured server that they decided to send email to, and because they even said during that investigation that they were classified document threads, as in a series of, emails, messages back and forth that, so I'm sure there was some sending and some receiving, and they all broke the law. I would even go as far as to say that in the Hillary Clinton extravaganza that was, Joe Biden as Vice President of the United States of America, along with President Obama of the same administration, they mishandled classified information too, which is probably why they didn't want to really go after Clinton, because then everybody involved would have gone down with her. And you can bet that Clinton would have made sure of that. That's one of the reasons why she did what she did. Yes, I'm going to break the law. Yeah, you're going to overlook it, because if I go down, you go down, and I don't trust any last one of you son of guns. Which leads me to my point of this whole entire exercise with the Trump papers, documents, and whatnot that he had at Mar-a-Lago. Here's what my suspicion is. Did he have state secrets? No. Maybe, but no. And even still, he was the president of the United States of America. He had the ability, because he was the executive branch, not head of the executive branch. He is. As per the Constitution, he's the executive branch. He had the authority, not having to check with anybody as to what he was doing, to declassify information. He had that right. None of what they are going after him for is a crime. Through the Presidential Records Act, none of it is a crime. It's a civil case at best. Or I guess I should say at worst. The most they can do, it's a civil case. The archives and the president, this whole thing's a civil case. It is what it is. It ain't criminal. They have no criminal standing to go after President Trump for these documents. He's the president. He can declassify whatever the heck he wants to right up until the time that Biden got inaugurated. Or what was that, January 20th? Yeah, right up until January 20th when Biden was inaugurated, at whatever time that was, he was the president right up until then. Do you really think that the president went in there, boxed up all these documents, and transported them to Mar-a-Lago himself? No, he's Donald J. freaking Trump. He had somebody else do it. They knew what they're putting all these documents in these boxes. We're going to ship them. That being said, I am sure there is no doubt in my mind that, one, there was no crime committed. Let that be glaringly obvious. But two, I wonder how much stuff he had on his person, or at least, how much stuff he had stored away in Mar-a-Lago, because he was going to go after the deep state. That he left office knowing that he was going to run again in 2024. And whenever he went in there, it was going to be no holds barred. He was going after him. A man on a mission. He's going to take him out. how much of that raid at Mar-a-Lago, how much of these indictments is the deep state doing an act of CMA? CMA, cover my ass. They wanted to seize these documents because they did not want them in the hands of President Trump, because these documents, you see, here's an ugly truth about Washington. Washington protects Washington. There's a lot of things that has been deemed classified, not because they're state secrets, but because they're senator secrets or congressman secrets or deep state secrets or whatever secrets. It has nothing to do with protecting the security of the United States of America. It has nothing to do with protecting, boots on the ground and operations. It has nothing to do with that. They mark something classified because they don't want it to be known to the public that they did something that they shouldn't have done. Violated freedom or what have you. Most of the things that are classified, that's why it's classified. And you have a point, because, also sets precedent for them to be gone after, though. Let me read that again. Also sets precedent for them to be gone after, though. And you're right, it does. But, here's the thing, and this is what, the Democrats are great about doing. They, prime example, when they were in control of the Supreme Court could do no wrong. Now that they're not in control of the Supreme Court, then it's illegitimate. You see, they don't care about the history of yesterday. They don't care about the future of tomorrow. It's what narrative do they want right now? It's in their favor for all this stuff to happen. A phone call with Ukraine, and a quid pro quo when Trump does it is bad, even though there was no quid pro quo. It was hey, here's a bunch of money we're going to give to you. Oh yeah, by the way, y'alls are known for your corruption. I'd hate to hear about y'alls being corrupt now. Can you look into something for me? Here's the money, by the way. Can you look into something for me? That was a phone call. The whistleblower wasn't a whistleblower because his whistleblowerness was based off of hearsay, which isn't even valid in the court of law. But you have Joe Biden, talking to the guy going, I got this money for you. Oh yeah, can I have it? No. Because you have a prosecutor investigating Burisma. If you want this money, you're going to fire him. And I, by the way, have the full support of the White House. If you don't believe me, go ahead and call Obama and he'll confirm. You have 6 hours to make that happen. And if you don't get it done in 6 hours, I'm taking the money back home with me. Nice doing business with you. A prosecutor that was investigating Burisma, where his son worked out. Oh, gee, quid pro quo. You want this money? You fire the prosecutor looking into Burisma. And not only did this actually happen, he bragged about it on national TV. All of a sudden, we have no problem with a quid pro quo because it was Biden that did it. With Trump, it was orange man bad. We got to get rid of him. With Biden, it's just Joe. A fake quid pro quo that wasn't even a quid pro quo, and they impeached him over it. An actual quid pro quo that was done by Joe Biden. And by the way, he got $5 million for that from Burisma. $5 million went to him and $5 million went to his son, Hunter. They've also discovered that. And we'll talk more about that in the next segment, but here you go. They change the rules depending on how they want to play the game, whatever benefits them. That's how the left operates. That's how the left has been operating for some time. And we've allowed it. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and take another quick break. When I get back, we're going to be talking about Biden. We're going to get more into that. Just a couple minutes. Don't go anywhere.
You are correct. You are correct. You are correct. You are correct.
Have you ever been so full of it your eyes are brown? Have you ever sat on the toilet but nothing comes out? Is a box of frosted shredded wheat just not doing the trick? Well, have I got the ultimate solution for you? Tide Pod Brand Colon Cleanse. See, Tide Pod Brand Colon Cleanse is that particular product that will break through the sphincter like the Kool-Aid Man through a brick wall. Oh yeah! No more irregularity, no more cramping, just good old nice flow. That's right, Tide Pod Brand Colon Cleanse. Please use responsibly and use at home. This is a fast-acting product now available in Tropical Punch. All right, and we are back. And yes, I have hit myself in the head trying to maneuver the microphone around to the other side of it. You know, I've done that. That has absolutely happened. Thwack. Yeah. All right, so I have a clip I'm wanting to play, and this is actually kind of long. It's, oh, holy crap, it's just shy of 5 minutes. But I want to set the stage for the star of this segment, Mr. the illustrious, the amazing, the sniffer, Joe Biden. Check it out. Crap. Hold on. Okay, here we go.
But in the end, the main reason Joe Biden is not a wannabe dictator is because he just does not fit the profile as a man. Dictators have that look. You know one when you see one. Dictators build cults of personality around themselves, and they use those cults to deny the glaringly obvious. In his later years, to name just one example, North Korean dictator Kim Il-sung developed an enormous baseball-sized tumor on the back of his neck. It was huge. It was grotesque. It was right there. You couldn't ignore it. You couldn't possibly not see it. But in North Korea, state media did ignore it. They pretended it didn't exist. And so, in some important sense, it didn't. If a tumor grows on a neck but no one acknowledges it, is it really there? Thankfully, nothing like that is happening in our country or ever will. If Joe Biden ever developed some profound physical or medical problem that was obvious to everybody, journalists would say something. This is not North Korea. We don't have state media here. If Joe Biden was, say, incapable of completing a full sentence, or mistook his sister for his wife, or suddenly started falling down in public for no reason, the New York Times would report on that and then get to the bottom of what was actually happening. That would be its duty in a free country like ours. It's not like they would cover it up. The very idea of a cover-up sounds like a conspiracy theory, a dangerous one, actually, so stop it. And by the way, if Joe Biden was a wannabe dictator, he'd have the family to match. All dictators do. Saddam Hussein had Uday and Qusay. They were princelings who lived above the law, indulging their most decadent fantasies with total confidence they would be never held to account by the police. As the sons of a dictator, they knew they could do exactly what they wanted, and so that's what they did. There's no one like that around Joe Biden. He doesn't have weird sex scandals at the heart of his family that no one in the media will ever talk about. He doesn't have a ne'er-do-well former nightclub-owning brother who's made a living for 30 years by being related to him. Not at all. That's dictator stuff. Joe Biden doesn't award ridiculous inflated titles to his relatives that the media are then required to take seriously. He doesn't call people doctor who didn't go to medical school and then force you to nod along like it's real when everyone knows it isn't. Nikolai Ceausescu did that with his wife, Elena. Joe Biden would never do that. Nor does Joe Biden dress like a dictator. He doesn't do photo ops in mirrored sunglasses driving a sports car to convince you that he isn't frail and senile, but instead powerful, virile, and wise. That's just not his style. If Joe Biden was a dictator, he'd be wearing epaulets and carrying a tasseled riding crop, and he isn't yet, so calm down. If he was a dictator, Biden's speeches would look like Nuremberg rallies, a blood-red backdrop, armed soldiers by his side, screaming about crushing his eternal enemies. Honestly, Biden did come close to that one time last September at a speech in Philadelphia, but it wasn't in any sense dictatory. It was necessary. As MSNBC assured us at the time, quote, Biden aimed to showcase his faith in the military apparatus and its ability to back the democratic order. See, it was about democracy, not dictatorship. No cause for alarm. He is not a dictator. A dictator would stockpile ammunition for his own bureaucrats, including his tax collectors. He'd redefine the legal code to make disloyalty to the regime the most serious crime. He'd claim dominion over the most intimate parts of his citizens' lives. He'd define what attitudes they were allowed to have about sex and religion and how to raise their families. He would even, in his final grandiose stage of dictatorship, claim ownership of their children. And Joe Biden wouldn't do that. And to prove he would never do that, Biden just this week released this video.
These are our kids. These are our neighbors. Not somebody else's kids, they're all our kids. And our children are the kite strings that hold our national ambitions aloft. It matters a great deal how we treat everyone in this country. LGBTQ Americans, especially children, you're loved, you're heard, and this administration has your back.
See? Joe Biden isn't saying your children belong to him like a dictator would. He's saying something very different from that. He's saying America's children are, quote, our children. Not his alone, ours. You share your children with Joe Biden evenly, right down the middle, with alternating weekends. You've got joint custody with Joe Biden, and you can thank heaven that you do. A nation is like a family. Every family has a head, a father. That's Joe Biden, our nation's father. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is now his fatherland. Just don't call it a dictatorship, or we'll have to issue a statement disavowing you.
All right. And of course, that clip came from TikTok, Tucker Update, or at Tucker Update. And yeah, Tucker Carlson. I believe he's over there on Twitter now. That's where he does his shows at now. And, you know, everything that he was saying there is true. He was saying that this isn't going on, and obviously all of it is going on, and it's all obvious, it's all blatant, all this is going on. You know, like I was saying in the last segment, it's like, how did we get here? How have we fallen so far that we no longer have equal application of the law, something that constitutionally we're supposed to have? I mean, isn't that part of the 14th Amendment, equal justice? And yeah, that thing was right on the money. All of it. We are allowing this to go on. You know, it was funny. I was talking with somebody, and this was actually a while back ago. It amazes me how in Canada, Canada started off as a British colony, just like the United States of America did. We fought for our freedom. They did not. They stayed with the crown. You have more freedom up in Canada than what you do down here in the States. Isn't that sad? I know I've talked about this in the past, but I definitely recommend reading this. This entire document from cover to cover. It's a small pamphlet, 36 pages, I believe. But if you read the part about the Declaration of Independence, there's 31 or 32 specific things that the crown did to the colonies as per the reason of why we went against the crown and declared our independence. Every single one of those reasons is relevant to today. Every single one of them. Please go through, read it for yourself, and you will see that I am right. Every one of them. How sad is that? How sad is that? That's pretty sad. But let's get into some of the articles that I'm wanting to touch base on. And of course, you can head on over to thehohoshow.com. Just click on that newsfeed tab. That'll take you over to my blog on blogspot. Whatever the heck it is. And you'll see my magazine on Flipboard. And, I do like Flipboard. Flipboard is awesome. They're not a sponsor, but I use them and have been since put near the beginning of the Ho-Ho Show. And all the articles that I use on the show is divided by show, by date, title of the show. This way you can look it up easily and follow along with everything that I talk about and see for yourself what's going on. I do that for a reason. I want you to be informed and to know what's going on. Don't take my word for it. Trust, but verify. But there you go. You can head on over there. The only thing I don't like about Flipboard, honestly, you can't just go over there and go to my magazine and check out one of my articles. You can't do that, unfortunately. Unfortunately, you've got to, create a profile, sign up for it, and whatnot. It doesn't cost anything. It's free, but you still have to put information in there. That's the only thing I don't like about them. I'm sorry. It's the only thing I don't like about them. But other than that, I love what they do. I really do. So this headline from what the heck ever, AM 740 KTRH News Radio, local Houston and Texas news. That was a mouthful. The media continues to ignore the Biden bribery story. And gee, are you really surprised? Mainstream media goes out of their way to ignore anything that the Biden family is being accused of. They go out of their way to ignore what's going on, what is clear to everyone else, as clear as the nose on Steve Martin in the movie Roxanne, as clear as the nose on his face. I might be dating myself with that reference. I'm hoping y'all are picking up on that, but that was freaking hilarious. Just saying. That was funny. I like that one. But yeah, they ignore it. And instead, they would much rather talk about anything. Orange Man bad, but they don't, they want to talk about perceived injustices, perceived crimes, but they don't want to talk about actual crimes. This headline from Washington Examiner, the IRS whistleblowers, David Weiss blocked from bringing Hunter Biden charges in D.C. and California. You see, they wanted to say in the beginning that, he had full authority to do whatever he wanted to bring about charges however he wanted to. He didn't need special counsel status because he has more authority than what he would have had if it was a special counsel. Well, we're finding out now through these actual whistleblowers that that's just not the case. You see, now the left doesn't like whistleblowers all of a sudden. You see, if you remember correctly, you know, they really loved whistleblowers whenever they were talking about the Trump Ukraine phone call, which wasn't even a whistleblower because it was hearsay. He wasn't actually a whistleblower. They brought to testify the people that were actually in the room. They brought transcript of the call itself for that, and everybody that was present was like, there wasn't anything wrong with that phone call. But the so-called whistleblower said that, oh yeah, this was obviously quid pro quo. This was a tit for tat. You know, this was, selling influence and whatnot, and we can't have that. And now you have actual whistleblowers, people with firsthand knowledge that are coming forward and saying what we already know to be true, that the people investigating this are being punished for blowing the whistle on the wrongdoings that is going on, the injustice of this whole thing that's being done by the IRS, that's being done by the Attorney General, that's being done by the FBI. We have whistleblowers coming forth, a bunch of them. I mean, there's at least 6 from I think the IRS alone, at least 6, and just as many out of the FBI. Oh, they're not to be trusted. They're not to be believed. And even though whistleblower protections that they wanted to give to a non-whistleblower, the actual whistleblowers who are blowing the whistle on this from the FBI, from the IRS, they aren't having any such protections. None of them. They're being reassigned. They're being punished because they dared to go against the Biden family syndicate. Yeah. This article from Daily Caller. Direct bribery. Republican congressman confirms that the FBI document refers to the big guy, that he is the president. Yeah, they've confirmed that. And it gets deeper. You know, have you guys heard about the... all the Dems did was attack the FBI guy's credibility the whole time during the hearing. Yeah. Yeah, they did. Whatever happened to equal rights, equal protection? Whatever happened to equal application under the law? Doesn't exist. Either you're for the law or you're not. The left is not for the law. They're anti-law. They're anti-law. Their actions are proving that they are truly anti-law. Not only this, with the, back to this headline from Daily Caller, they've confirmed all kinds of different things. Sometimes it's really, really hard to follow the money. One of the things that a true crime lord does is they find creative ways of hiding money and hiding transactions using shell corporations and dummy accounts and this, that, and the other. And one of the emails that was found on Hunter Biden's laptop, one of the things it alluded to, now this was in direct correlation to that whole fire the prosecutor, investing Burisma, where my son Hunter Biden works at, and the $5 million that was transferred to Hunter Biden, and then $5 million that was transferred to Joe Biden. They flat said in that email, those that made the payment, that, we're giving you $10 million and it'll take them years to trace the money and track the money on where it came from. We did a very good job distributing it to people. There's been at least 9 different Biden family members, including children, siblings, grandchildren, of how they have transferred money around various shell corporations and LLCs. This is some of the stuff that they have been finding. And although we are hearing information about, these, the investigations just being done in Congress, we're not hearing anything about the special prosecutors that are supposed to be investigating this. We're not hearing anything about it. None. And the only thing that they have done is a virtual slap on the wrist to Hunter Biden for a misdemeanor gun charge and a tax evasion. And the IRS waited to do anything so that this way the statute of limitations would run out on other things that they could have gotten him on as well. Upwards of like $10+ million that he got away with. Didn't have to pay taxes on. Oh, gee, but they're getting 87,000 new IRS agents, or at least that's what they're wanting to hire and fund, all to go after your money. I mean, gee, if you would have went after Hunter Biden, you could have gotten all kinds of money, all while he's going, I don't have enough money to give child support to my daughter. That's what Hunter Biden's doing. He's claiming that he ain't got that money, even though he's gotten all kinds of money for selling access to his father and then giving money to the big guy. They know who he is. This headline from the Peacock. House Republicans demand testimony from Department of Justice and IRS officials about the Hunter Biden probe. Now, guys, look, this is never going to happen. Well, okay, it might happen. They're never going to get testimony out of Hunter Biden. If you're lucky enough to get him in the room, all he's going to do is plead the fifth. You're not going to get any answers out of him. You're not going to get anything. All you're going to get is him pleading the fifth. But they're demanding testimony from the Department of Justice and IRS officials about this Hunter Biden probe. Three committee chairs have requested testimony about IRS whistleblower allegations. Well, about the whistleblowers' allegations that there was meddling in the case against the president's son. And yeah, there was. These whistleblowers have testified to that already. The information that's coming out about all this is staggering. I mean, it really is. I mean, I can't stress enough how damning all this information is. There's a lot of it. And I'm sure you can imagine just how bad it is for the Biden family. But, and here's the thing, it's like, I don't care about any of this. I really don't, and I said this before. I said this from the very beginning. Do all the investigations you want to. Bear it all out. Peel back the curtain. See the man behind the curtain. You know that it's not a wizard. You know it's just a guy with a bunch of fancy controls. We know what's going on here. None of this should be a surprise to anybody. The information that's coming out is staggering. Just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Holy crap. I can't stress to you enough how bad this is. If it was anybody else, and people have gone to prison. I mean, good grief, what? Wesley Snipes went to jail for 3 years or 4 years for the very thing that Hunter Biden just got a slap on the wrist for it, and he didn't even get a slap on the wrist. It was a virtual slap on the wrist, as in it didn't actually happen. They just said that it happened, even though it really didn't happen. For the gun charge, he's not even getting a slap on the wrist. I mean, he's not even getting an ankle monitor. It's, you know, he agrees to stay clean for 2 years. Are they really going to check him on that? Are they really going to? People have gone to prison for what Joe Biden got accused of, got found guilty of, and did his plea agreement for. You know, not even a slap on the wrist. People have gone to prison, had to pay thousands and thousands of dollars of fine, and what did Hunter get? Nothing. A slap on the wrist for the low-hanging fruit, the fruit that a beat cop could have gotten him on. Didn't take any investigation prowess whatsoever. It's not like they really had to dig to figure out what he did here. The low-hanging fruit, the easy stuff, and that's all they're getting him on. Not even a slap on the wrist. People have gone to jail. Celebrities has gone to jail for what Hunter Biden got caught doing. Nothing. Biden family crime syndicate. And we, the people, are tolerating all this. I mean, how much more are we going to allow them to do? I mean, this doesn't mean anything anymore. Rip it up, tear it up, set it on fire. It doesn't mean anything anymore. They've destroyed the Constitution. The very document that our great nation was founded upon. It no longer exists. It's been destroyed. They've torn it up. They've set it ablaze. They've stomped all over it. Trump flat said it. They're going after you. I'm standing in their way. That's why they're attacking me. They're going after you. They're going after me. They're going after us. There is no more equal application of the law. There's no more equal representation. There is no more Constitution. Do we truly live in a free society now? When the thought police have more power than the actual police? When the actual police have to enforce the thought police? That's happening. You know, parents who stand up for their children's rights get put on a watch list and are classified as terrorists from the FBI. Are we really free when that's the kind of stuff that's going on? When we tell the schools that, no, you don't have the right to do this crap to our children, and the parents get treated like they're terrorists and they're the ones that are in the wrong. Do we really live in a free nation anymore? I mean, I want to know. Damning, but yet nothing happens. Whatever happens takes forever. Ridiculous. Yeah, and you know, this is the point that I'm actually trying to make. You know, so they have these whistleblowers that come forth. They have these investigations, and you have these different, you know, Congress people that are doing these investigations, and oversight committee, and this, that, and the other. But in the end, what difference is it going to make? I want to know. Is anybody going to go to jail? Is he really being punished? Is Hunter Biden even being punished for what he did? No. I'll believe it when I see it. So what if they find him guilty? They found Hillary Clinton guilty. The investigation, she was guilty. Did she get a fine? No. Did she go to jail? No. Did anything happen? Was anybody held to account? No. Have all the investigations you want to. This is a point that I made in the very beginning. Have the investigations you want to. But unless you're actually going to hold somebody accountable, all you're doing is wasting money. You're wasting my money. You're wasting taxpayer money by just doing an investigation, letting us know everything of what happened, and doing nothing about it. Who cares? We already know. We already know what's going on. We don't need you to spend $5,000, $10,000, $10 million on an investigation to tell us what we already know. So what? What was that? The Durham report that just came out not that long ago with all the crap that the FBI was doing? It was a Steele dossier. It was the Hillary Clinton and the DNC paid for this. That was the entirety of the basis of the FISA warrants that investigated Trump for how many years? The basis for the impeachment, the basis of everything. And, well, so? What's going to happen? Until I see Hillary Clinton in an orange jumpsuit, the Constitution is meaningless. There is no such thing as law. And this is truly where I fall on this. I don't care what you want to accuse Trump of. At this point, I really don't care. I'm being facetious when I say this, but it's still, okay. I don't care if Trump walks up to a total stranger and kablooey, until these Democrats go to prison for what they've done, I don't care about what they go after Trump for. I don't care. I'm being facetious on that one. Yeah, murder would probably be bad. I would like to know the circumstances and the situation on that one. I ain't going to call him guilty before he's had a chance to defend it. Before the prosecution has had the ability to prove his guilt, because you're innocent until proven guilty, not guilty until proven innocent. That's a distinction that we seem to have, forgotten all about in their treatment of former President Donald J. Trump. I don't care at this point what Trump does until they actually go after all these Democrats, Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, Hillary Clinton, Obama, all these other officials in the Obama administration. I don't really care. Just being honest with you. We're going to go ahead and take another quick break. When we return, we're going to finish out the program talking about the Supreme Court, because we have had some monumental cases that are absolutely amazing that just got released, just came out, and we got something that they are about ready to take on. I haven't heard the word on this one, but this one is also very, very important. We will get into that right after this. Just a couple more minutes, guys. Don't go nowhere. Do you love your occasional Mexican dish or your musical fruit? Are you tired of walking by family members and crop dusting them? Well, if this has ever happened to you, might I introduce you to Tampons brand butt plugs. Tampons brand butt plugs is that particular type of butt plug that allows you to walk in public in confidence knowing that you're not going to accidentally crop dust somebody. Tampons brand butt plugs now with the plastic applicator.
Not just for women anymore.
Tampons brand butt plugs. All right, and we are back. All right, so there's a lot of articles in here that I'm going to be touching base on, but basically there are four different things that the the Supreme Court either has already ruled on or is about to rule on. One of them, at least I'm pretty sure, about to. And I haven't heard anything about it being ruled upon yet. So I'm hoping they haven't actually ruled on it, or at least haven't ruled negatively on this. But anyway, 4 different things. And, like I said, there's a lot of articles in here. And of course, if you want to read into these, then, head on over to thehohoshow.com. Just click on that newsfeed tab there at the top of the page and check out my magazine on Flipboard. You'll see all the articles in there. There's like 33, I think, in there maybe. So check those out. And of course, I primarily try to put them in the order that they were on the show. So later in the show is going to be further down in the magazine. There you go. So first off, this first article is from the Dispatch. All right. First one from the Dispatch. Representation versus democracy. Not all representative bodies are democratic, and not everything should be democratized. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. It says republic, not democracy. I might be dating myself on that one, but that was, the Pledge of Allegiance, something that we used to recite every single day before start of school. First thing we did. We use the democratic system, but we are not a democracy. You see, the left and a lot of other people like to wrongfully call our form of government a democracy. We're not a democracy. We are a constitutional representative republic. A constitution, meaning it is the supreme law of the land. Representative, as in we elect our leaders to represent us in a Republican form of government. 3 separate but equal branches. All these branches with specific powers meant to represent a different aspect of our nation. And something that through the Constitution was guaranteed to every state in the Union, as in a Republican form of government. What that means federally is 3 separate but equal branches, and that is what that is supposed to be on the state level. 3 separate but equal branches of government. That is going to be important, talking about one of the aspects we will be talking about very shortly. We are not a democracy because regardless of what the majority wants, I have the freedom of speech. It doesn't matter if you want me to exercise it. I still have the freedom of speech. It's not about what the majority wants. It's about the republic. It's about the Constitution being the supreme law of the land. I have the freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to peaceably assemble, the freedom to petition the government with a redress of grievances. I have the right to protect myself, to own and to carry on my person a firearm. And that right is necessary and shall not be infringed because it is what is important for the security of a free state. As in, a free state can't have security if the people don't have the right to keep and bear arms, to own and to carry on their person. Not to rip the sleeves off, but to have a firearm. With great power comes great responsibility. You need to be proficient in how to use the weapon, but that still doesn't give the federal government the right to infringe upon my freedom just because they don't like me having it. In a democracy, in short, is about mob rule. Democracies are ugly. That is specifically why our founding fathers did not design our nation, the government of our nation, as a democracy. Yeah, we used a democratic process, but we're not a democracy. I've used the analogy 100 times. I'm going to use it 100 more. A democracy is two pedophiles and a parent talking about age of consent for their children. A democracy is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Democracy is mob rule. In a constitutional republic, in our constitutional republic, freedom, unlimited and without restraint, for the most part, was given to us. We the people. The Ninth Amendment, in the Bill of Rights. These rights in the 10 Bill of Rights are not all of the rights that you have. You have way more. It would be stupid for us to try to include all of your rights right here. As in my state, well, okay, federally speaking, I'll leave that alone. I shouldn't have to have a fishing license to fish in public water. Only in America do you have a freedom that you have to buy a permit or a license in order to exercise. That to me is kind of ridiculous. However, fireworks have started already. Woohoo! The 10th Amendment says that the powers of the federal government is numbered. That's why they call it numeric powers. Enumerated powers. I'm sorry, numeric powers. Yeah, I'm intelligent. The federal government has enumerated powers, and the 10th Amendment said that all the powers that weren't given to the federal government or specifically restricted for the states to have belongs in the hands of the state or the people. That means the Department of Education is unconstitutional. That's a power that was never granted to the federal government. It belongs in the hands of the people. These distinctions are important. So the Supreme Court has done, 4 different rulings, or at least they have done 3, and I think they have another one on the way. Talking about Well, let's see. Student loan debt forgiveness. They had a ruling on that. A ruling on affirmative action. Independent state legislature. They also had one about the Christian web designer. And one that they're about ready to talk about is revisiting the wealth tax. The wealth tax. And we're going to start off with this headline from the New York Post. Supreme Court rulings favor American freedom despite what the left thinks. You see, here's the thing. Yeah, the left doesn't like it. They don't like it because they're losing some of the control, or they're losing the whole ruling by fiat. You see, the left really loves democracy until democracy doesn't give them the results that they want. And that's when they rely on the Supreme Court to give them the type of rulings that they want. That is why you have, after certain things, and the thing that the left seems to be screaming about a lot right now, and that is trying everything that they possibly can to delegitimize too. I don't know if that's a word, but y'all know what I'm saying. The Supreme Court. Let me give you a not a demonstration, but let me give you an example, okay? I believe it was California was whenever this whole, well, okay, Roe versus Wade, that's what we're going to talk about, Roe versus Wade. You see, the Democrats really wanted abortion. They really wanted abortion. They very much wanted abortion. You know, the founder of Planned Parenthood was, who's her face? I've said her name numerous times. Her name eludes me for the moment. It was eugenics. She wanted to get rid of undesirables, which is, black people was, first and foremost of the people that they wanted to get rid of. Undesirables. And, the left loves democracy, and they use democracy to try to, to rule in favor of, to vote abortion in, and to claim that Margaret Sanger, thank you, Brian. Margaret Sanger is the founder of Planned Parenthood. Eugenics. That's why Planned Parenthoods, are mostly in the inner cities. But they used the Democrat process in order to push through abortion, trying to make it a right. And just so you know, for the record, there is no right to kill an unborn baby in the Constitution. You do not have that right. That's a perceived right, which I don't quite understand how you can have the perceived right of killing a baby when murder is wrong. And, the whole, Declaration of Independence, we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. And among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But anyway, I digress. They used the Democrat process, and the Democrat process did not pass for abortion on demand. It didn't. You see, the Democrat process is great until the Democrat process does not give the Democrats what, the outcome they want. And that's why Roe versus Wade went to the Supreme Court in the first place, because the Democrat process didn't give the Democrats what they wanted. And so they legislated by fiat, and they loved it because they got the result they wanted. Is it right? No, it isn't. We have three separate but equal branches in our government. Legislative branch, executive branch, judicial branch. Who makes laws? Pop quiz, hot shot. Who makes laws? The judicial branch? Well, no, not at all. You see, three separate but equal branches of government. We have three branches. You see, we have the legislative branch. I'll start right there. And their job is to represent, well, their job is to write laws. Who do they represent? Well, you got the upper house, the Senate. They represent the individual states. That's why there are two for each state. Every state has an equal voice. Before the 17th Amendment, which was the worst amendment that they ever put in the Constitution, the 17th Amendment, before then, that's who they represented, the states. Now they are elected by a popular vote. Now they no longer represent the state. Now it's just a high and mighty version of the House of Representatives, which is the lower house, and of which case they are voted by the people, representative of the public, which is why you have some states that have more representatives than another, because some states obviously have more people in them than other states. Legislate, to write laws. You have the executive branch, one person of the executive branch. That is the President of the United States of America currently, unfortunately, is Joe Biden. Kamala Harris, even though she is the vice president, she isn't part of the executive branch. She is actually part of the legislative branch. Oh, you didn't know that, did you? They're actually the highest member of the legislative branch, the vice president. The executive branch is to ensure that the laws are executed faithfully. That's their job. His job is to represent us on the national front. The president represents our nation as a whole. You have the judicial branch. The judicial branch is not elected at all. It is supposed to be the non-political branch of government, free from the bindings of politics. That's why they are not elected. That's why they are appointed, and that's why they serve how they serve, not elected. Their job is to defend the Constitution, to serve the Constitution, to represent the Constitution. Which is why the whole Dobbs case was important. You see, the Dobbs case didn't outlaw and overturn Roe versus Wade by outlawing abortion. That's not what Dobbs did. Dobbs simply adhered to the Constitution, the 10th Amendment, that the federal government has no jurisdiction here. This is a state matter. It doesn't belong under the hands of the federal government. This is a state issue. You don't have the perceived right to an abortion. It doesn't exist. It's not in the Constitution. And this is not one of the enumerated powers that the federal government has. It's a state issue. So you guys make this choice individually. That's all the ruling did. That's it. Okay? That is all it did. Now, excuse me, let me get a drink right quick. Now let's go into what we're actually talking about. Okay? The first one that we're going to be talking about is the independent state legislature theory. That is one of the rulings that they actually did, or at least one of the decisions that they actually made, and of which case this is something that I say they were wrong about. Okay? This is something that they were wrong about. What is the independent state legislature theory? Well, here's the thing. You see, the Constitution says, sorry, I muted myself and I have no idea why. The Constitution says that during an election, the date is right here prescribed in the Constitution, but the means and the place of, where you're going to vote and, those type of things, the voting districts and whatnot, well, that is up to the state legislature to decide. Period. End of story. That's what the Constitution actually says. And then they want to say that, oh, it's an independent state legislature theory, saying that it's up to interpretation. What do you mean it's up for interpretation? Second Amendment, right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Doesn't really need a lot of interpretation. It's pretty clear. English isn't exactly a hard language. Maybe spelling is, breathe and breath, two different pronunciations. It's spelled exactly the same. Yeah, it is. Breathe, breath. It's spelled exactly the same. Two different meanings. And then you have, I hate English. I really do, because you have this thing called phonetics. Okay. That's as in, you asking your dad, how do you spell that? And your dad says, look it up. And he did that to me. And then I fired back with, Dad, if I don't know how to spell it, how am I supposed to look it up? But you can't use phonetics even to say the word phonetics. Phonetics starts with an F. No, it doesn't. It starts with a PH. Wait a second. It's f. That's an F in the alphabet. Oh, ALF. Oh, no, it's ALPH. Anyway, English, even still with the defined definition of words, still know what it means. Legislature, legislative branch, separate but equal, Republican form of government. There you go. All right? There you go. It's not a theory when it is prescribed in the Constitution very easily. If you have any more questions, arguments, discussions, concerns, whatever, go ahead and read the Federalist Papers and find out what they said. Here's what it amounts to. The federal government has already prescribed in the Constitution the day that the election is going to be. Time and means and all that other kind of good stuff. Well, those are decisions that are made by the legislative branch in each respective state. Legislative branch. The independent state legislature theory is that it is just the legislative branch that has the right, the power to do this. The executive branch doesn't have any power here. They don't have any power to govern it. They don't have any power to make sure that it's done right. And the judicial branch doesn't have any power of oversight, period. End of story. They want to call it a theory as in it is unproven, but I'm sorry, the language of the Constitution is clear. It isn't a theory, it's a fact. Here's why this aggravates me so much. This headline from HuffPost. The Supreme Court rejects radical independent state legislature theory. Oh, it's radical now. The hell do you mean it's radical? The Constitution, our founding document, the thing that gives the Supreme Court its power, the Supreme Court is going to rip the stinking thing up as if it doesn't even exist, and they want to call it a theory, and you're a radical if you believe in the Constitution, the Second Amendment, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, believing that it shall not be infringed, not giving a damn if your feelings get hurt because I exercise my freedom of speech. That makes me a radical to think that parents should have the right of raising their kids and not the state in the education system. That makes me a radical. No, it doesn't. It doesn't make me a radical at all. I am a constitutional conservative. Defending the Constitution is what I'm going to do. And I am an originalist in my views on the Constitution. I hate the 17th Amendment because the Senate represents the state. The House of Representatives represents the people in those states. And the Supreme Court rejects the independent state legislature theory. Now, this is why this is so ridiculous, okay? In this ruling, basically is what he says. or in this decision, in this opinion, what they basically say is everybody in government is part of the legislative branch. I'm sorry, you look at the federal government, the Constitution says that the guarantees a Republican form of government as in 3 separate but equal branches of government, legislative, judicial, executive, is guaranteed to all 50 states. And the Supreme Court just said that now everybody in court, in government, as in the executive, the judicial, and the legislative are all legislatures. Does that mean that all of the power now is no longer separate but equal branches? Does that mean now that the executive branch can now judge? If everybody's a part of the legislative branch, is everybody part of the executive? Is everybody part of the judicial? Because if it's the same, then it's the same, not just in the states. That means that the Supreme Court are now legislators as well. I mean, they've been acting like that for quite some time. That's why they call it case law precedents. That's how Roe v. Wade got here in the first place. It wasn't a law. It was case law. Case law ain't law. Case law didn't go through the lower house, the upper house, and then get signed into law by the president. Or in the case of a state, it didn't go through upper house or lower chamber, upper chamber, and then get signed in by the governor. They just squashed and stepped on the Constitution. That right there is a decision that they completely screwed up. Because if everybody's part of the legislative branch and it's now no longer 3 separate but equal branches, that means that there is no more distinction between the branches of government. No holds barred. Everybody is everything now. Everybody can do everything. Now, the sham of the whole thing is this is how things have been done for quite some time. We talked about earlier in the show about the ATF having a rule about, what was that? ATF on something. Good grief. Ghost guns. Yeah. Ghost guns. See, that's the thing, though. That's the rub, because the ATF is part of the executive branch. The executive branch does not have the power to write laws, but yet they do all the time in the form of regulations that you and me have to live by. It carries the weight of law, even though they are not law. This is why the deep state is so dangerous. And that's what the deep state is. You see, you have the president, whom is elected, held accountable by the people. You have senators and you have representatives, and they're held accountable by the people. They're elected. And you have Supreme Court justices. Now, even though they are not elected, they're appointed by people whom are. And if you piss off the people enough, they can petition and they can, impeach justices. And yes, you can. There's actually nothing in the Constitution that says a Supreme Court justice serves for the remainder of their life. It's not actually in there. It's perceived. But there is no limit on their tenure, which is why they just serve until they're old and senile, or until they step down, or, whatever the case may be. But then you have the deep state. The deep state are people who write laws by fiat. Under the authority and the power and authority of the executive branch, even though, you see, this is the rub, because none of these various departments and bureaus and alphabet soup people, none of them were given the legislative authority. That the legislative authority was given exclusively to the legislative branch and not the executive branch. You know, so all the rules that the EPA come up with are violations of the Constitution. All the rules that the ATF come up with are violations of the Constitution. All the rules that the Department of Transportation come up with are violations to the Constitution. Everything that is come up with by the Department of Education is a violation of the Constitution on the federal level. That's not to say that the Department of Education in an individual state wouldn't be constitutional, because it absolutely would. However, the power, the oversight power, holding the state's money ransom until they did the things that the federal government wanted them to do, that is wrong and unconstitutional. And all these people that work in these various departments, these are rules and regulations that are written that carry the weight of law as if they are law, even though they don't have the power to do so. It all is unconstitutional, and it all is done by people that operate under the power and the authority of the executive branch. They operate as both executive and legislature, and they are not held accountable by the people. And the president has no power to eliminate most any of their jobs. Underneath the power of the executive, but the executive holds no power over them, there are a bunch of bureaucrats. They operate under the power of the executive, and yet they have power of the legislature. But, you know, here's the thing, though. Here's the rub. The deep state was designed and put in power to give the president, what's that word? Plausible deniability. It's not my fault what the EPA does. I'm just the president. I didn't elect those people. These are bureaucrats. And the legislative branch, well, they do this because there's a lot of dirty jobs, but somebody's got to do it. And, you know, quite honestly, the legislative branch doesn't want to be held accountable for what they really want to do, which is why they allow the executive branch to take all this authority from them in the first place and legislate the way that they do. Because they like the deep state having the power and plausible deniability, they aren't held accountable for what the EPA does. Because, well, it's the EPA, it's not the legislative branch. That's why all this has happened. Separate but equal branches. You see, he makes that claim that everybody is everything, and now that's what they're calling it, and they're calling it that on the state level, but now is what he did, considering the state is a reflection of the federal government. That means that now, well, the executive branch can now judge. Apparently, the executive branch can now hear cases that are going to the Supreme Court. Apparently now, so can the legislative branch. Apparently now, the legislative branch has power over the executive. Apparently there isn't anything special about anybody. Now everything is a shared power. They just took away the constitutional republic. In a ruling right there. That's what they did. So that right there is the independent state theory. That's why their judgment on that is so wrong. They just destroyed the whole entire thing. And they don't care. And right after this happened, or at least during this article from Just the News, GOP-led House passes separate, sorry, hold on a second. Okay. From Just the News, GOP-led House passes Separation of Powers Restoration Act. Basically, they passed an act that said 3 separate but equal branches, explaining and putting into law exactly what I just got done explaining to you. That's what the GOP-led House passed, and it even passed, this is what's amazing, a Democrat-controlled Senate. Barely, but it passed. Even the legislative branch, whom signs off on the executive branch taking their power at will, even they said, yeah, this has got to be separate but equal branches. They passed it. That is H.R. 288. It would authorize federal courts that review agency actions to decide all relevant questions of law. Now, of course, whenever this got to Biden's desk, he vetoed it. It's not law. But, yeah, GOP-led House and even Democrat-controlled Senate passed it. How amazing is that? Now we're going to move on. Wow, holy crap. I knew this was going to be a long episode. We got a couple things, and we'll quickly get through these. This next we're going to touch base on is affirmative action. The colorblind Constitution prevails. This headline from the Washington Free Beacon. The colorblind Constitution prevails. This article, anyway. They ruled that affirmative action is crap. They overthrew affirmative action. Okay. I'm a student of Martin Luther King Jr., the colorblind society. That's what I want, where people are not judged by the color of their skin. You see, here's the thing, and this is the ugly truth, okay? Now, look, why I feel as though I have to predicate this the way that I am about to, I don't know, but you know what? Here we are. 'Tis the world we live in. I'm not a racist. I really don't care. Color doesn't mean anything to me because I really don't care. I don't. I'll talk to anybody. There are all kinds of races that are represented in the town I live in. I know several, from Mexican, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, whatever. Black, white, brown, yellow, green. I think we even got some Smurfs here. Even got a few of those. Most of them are in the morgue. That was horrible. That was bad. That was bad. That was bad. I'm sorry. Starving pygmies. Wow, that was bad. Okay. Anyway, I don't care. I don't care about your race, your color, your creed. It doesn't matter to me because, you know, the color of your skin is not indicative of the type of person that you are. Okay? It's just not. There may be some things on how you present yourself to the world that may make me judge you, but that isn't the color of your skin. That's based off of how you present yourself. You know, you dress like a thug, you know, doesn't matter the color of your skin. You're probably going to get treated like a thug. And to expect anything different of people, well, that's you kind of being ignorant and stupid. That's not, you know, that person, you know, there's white thugs out there. There's black thugs out there, you know, whatever. Yellow, brown thugs out there, you know, but if you dress like a businessman, you're going to get treated like a businessman. Barack Obama did not dress like a thug. I mean, could you imagine Barack Obama dressing up like Tupac or Snoop Dogg? I mean, really? Okay? 2 different people or 3 different people. We'll tone it down to Snoop Dogg and Barack Obama. Same color, 2 very different people, and each of them would be treated according to how they presented themselves to public by the public. Is that racist? Nah. Because for the most part, I'm going to treat Snoop Dogg and Willie Nelson in the same light. Now, yeah. And even Cheech and Chong, you know, I'm going to treat them all in the same light. And you got black, you got white, and you got brown. I want to treat them all in the same light. Why? Because they're all potheads. Although you got to treat Willie Nelson with a little bit more respect, because even Snoop Dogg said Willie Nelson's weed is There's a reason Who's His Face sang that song, I'll Never Smoke Weed with Willie Again. And basically Snoop Dogg has said the same thing. That's saying something coming from Snoop Dogg. I'm just saying. Holy crap. The point is, I'm not a racist person. I'm not saying that, we didn't have racism in our history. Of course we did. However, a misconception is racism was not founded, slavery was not founded in the United States of America by Americans. Slavery and racism has been all over the place. And it's still carried on today, even slavery. Okay, we abolished slavery, but you're still free to be a racist. I'm not condoning racism, but as per the Constitution, you have the right to be a racist. You have a right to be ignorant and bigotry, and you have a right to do that. I don't condone it. I think you're stupid if you operate that way, but hey, it is what it is. Freedom is ugly, people, and if you believe anything different, then that just makes you not pay attention in history class, and you didn't pay attention in civics class. If you think that freedom is supposed to be neat and purty, it ain't. It's messy. Sometimes it just doesn't go according to plan, but that doesn't mean it's not right. Because the free market will fix what otherwise can't be fixed. Think about it. If you have 2 businesses, okay. Here in my town, we got a Walgreens right across the street from a CVS. Okay. Now I'm going to speak out a couple hypotheticals here. Ain't none of them, representative of the stores of which I'm talking about. I'm speaking purely hypothetical. Ain't none of it true. I'm just giving you some hypotheticals. Okay. You got Walgreens over here on this corner. And on the other corner, you got CVS. Now, CVS is owned by some white Aryans, blonde, blue-eyed, KKK members, swastika, everything else. They're promoting Hitler and everything else. It's just bad. And then you have over here, you got Walgreens, and it's owned by whoever. Pick your poison. I don't even care. Let's say it's owned by a Middle Eastern that's got a headscarf on. Nice person. Great individual, and yes, we have one of them said business owners in our town. He doesn't own the Walgreens. It's not that I know of. But anyway, that's who he is. Nice guy. We'll just say he's that guy. Guess where the business is going to go? To the Walgreens. Why? Because you have an openly racist owners of a CVS that just throw it out there, right there on their sleeve for everybody to see. The free market is going to reject that type of thing because the free market, the people in the society know that is wrong. And all of them, who cares about the color of the guy's skin, who cares about his religious affiliation, they're going to go to that guy. Why? Because he's not a bigoted racist. Or at least if he is, he's smart enough to keep it to himself. The free market is going to go where the free market wants to go, and the majority of the people out there don't like racism and is not going to support openly racist crap. The free market will fix the problem. And just so you know, reverse racism is still racism. It is. I don't know if you've never been told that or not, but it is. Reverse racism is still racism. You know? Now, here's what this ruling that the Supreme Court did. This is what it did. Okay. You got a lot of reverse racism going on right now in a lot of colleges. Okay. About how they pick how people are able to get in. Now, you see, they have, the standardized testing. They got this, that, and the other, but they also have other things. And well, first and foremost, they have quotas. Okay. They got quotas. And they need to meet these quotas. And they have different curves based off of what race you belong to that, make it easier for this group of people to get in, about average for this group of people, a little bit harder for that group, and then really, really hard for this group of people to get into this college. A type of point system that is attached to a person's SATs based off of their race. Okay? Like white people have a 0, no plus. Okay, brown people are given let's say a 3-point boost to their SATs. Black people are given, let's say a 13 boost to their SATs. And then you have Asians, Japanese, Chinese, Asians. They're given a negative point system based off of their race because they're overrepresented in college. That's reverse racism at its finest. Asians are being penalized because most of them do very, very good academically. Now, see, what the left wants isn't, they want affirmative action. They want diversity hires. They shun fancy things like electricity. No, I'm sorry. They fund fancy things like meritocracy. I'm sorry, whenever you're on your deathbed, you want the surgeon that was hired and went to school of his meritocracy, his merits. He's a good doctor. You want that when you're on your deathbed. The last thing you want on your deathbed is the diversity hire. You don't want the guy that showed up and only got the position, only got accepted into college, not because he was good, not because he was qualified, but only got in there because of the color of his skin that was graded on the curve and barely got out of there. You don't want that guy. When your life is on the line, I think we all can agree we don't want the diversity hire. We know this on a fundamental level, but for some reason. Now, in cases when it doesn't matter, who cares? But even still, I care. But the Supreme Court just said that, well, you can't do diversity hires anymore. You can't, you can't base your acceptance of a student through affirmative action. No more reverse racism, because your reverse racism is racist towards Asians. It's racist against other people in favor of somebody else. We believe in the colorblind society where we are not judged by the color of our skin, but by your merits. Are you qualified? Or are you not? Now, kudos to the Supreme Court on ruling this way on this one. Now, we're going to go ahead and start speeding through some of this other stuff. Some of the other things that they that they voted on was, just got done talking about the independent state legislature, got done talking about affirmative action. Next, we're going to talk about the student loan debt. The Supreme Court just said that the student loan debt forgiveness thing that Joe Biden signed the executive order on is unconstitutional. Can't do that. And what's funny is, you see, they quoted Nancy Pelosi in their decision, which I thought was absolutely funny because, Nancy Pelosi flat put out there, it's like, well, the president really can't do this. You see, not only, this is what it amounts to, because this is money. Okay. He's trying to spend money and allocate funds. Well, you can't do that without Congress. You can't, just sign an executive order to spend money. That has to go through Congress. It's got to go through the House of Representatives. And that's what the Supreme Court just basically based their decision off of. Nancy Pelosi. I never thought I would I would see the day that I would actually agree with Nancy Pelosi, but here we are. I'm agreeing with Nancy Pelosi. Yeah. Are you as surprised as I am? Because I am definitely surprised about that one. Let's move on to the last issue that we have right now. We are talking about the wealth tax. This is something that, again, I thought that they were, I know this is something that's coming up, or maybe they've already ruled on it and I just haven't heard it, but they're talking about the wealth tax. They're talking about doing the wealth tax. Now, here's the thing. The wealth tax is kind of something, a hidden thing, okay? Now, this basically is a tax that they are wanting to not just tax your income, but they want to tax you on everything. All of your assets, everything that you have, your perceived wealth. Not actual income or money in cash that you have, but your perceived wealth. Now, why do I call it a perceived health? Perceived wealth, not health. Perceived wealth. You own a house. Okay? And you're taxed federally, you're taxed in the state for your house, your property taxes. They tax your house based off of its perceived value. And I say perceived value because it's based off of housing market, this, that, and the other. But it's not anything until after it's sold. Okay? It's just a perceived value. And they're going after not just your house, but they want to everything. Your stocks, your bonds, your property, your vehicles, your house, your comic book collection, your baseball collection, all of these things, they're wanting to take an inventory of everything you got, and they know what you got. Why? Because they have access to Amazon. They have access to eBay. They have access to your credit card information, your debit card information, your PayPal account, everything. They know what you're spending your money on. They have access to all this crap anyway. They're going to go through what you have, and they're going to come up with an arbitrary value of it based on what they think it is, and then they are going to tax you accordingly. Everything. That's what they are wanting to do. Now, they claim that this is going to be for people making, $50 million in a year or over. I think that's what they said. Now, before you put any weight into that one, income tax was only supposed to be for the super wealthy. Unfortunately, the super wealthy came up with very creative ways not to participate in said system. And in order for them to see any return on their investment by hiring all these IRS people that they went ahead and they hired, well, they had to go ahead and lower the bar on the amount of people that they were going to tax. And now they basically tax everybody except for the impoverished. You know, which I think it basically amounts to anybody making under like $24,000 or $30,000 a year. Anything making under that, then they're really not taxed. Anybody making over a certain amount of money, well, it doesn't really matter because there's so many loopholes and whatnot that they can use and utilize that they really don't pay that much in taxes in accordance to, you know, as a percentage rate based off of how much money they earn. So don't believe that they're only going to go after people that are earning a certain amount of money or over. They're going to go after everybody. But mind you, 87,000 IRS agents, they haven't been defunded as of yet. Their job is still there. They're going to work. And their job is to go after you and me. They're going to go through the cushions. They're going to go through your stuff. They're going to do this because they want this wealth tax passed. Now, here's the thing, not that I put any weight behind it, but the IRS has already ruled on a case just like this. And because they tried to do this already whenever a person whom was receiving receiving dividends. Dividends is an income that can be taxed. And instead of receiving dividends, this individual said, instead of dividends, I want to be paid in stocks. And so the federal government, the IRS, went after this person saying that, well, you owe us money. And they were like, what do you mean I owe you money? It's like, well, you owe an income tax off of that income. It's like, well, that wasn't income. I didn't get any money off of it. It's like, well, you got this much money worth of stocks. Says who? I didn't get any money. A stock is a perceived value right up until the time you sell it. Then it has actual value. You see, here's the thing, all right? If you buy, let's say, $1 worth of stock in ABC company on the stock market, and it goes from $1 overnight to $1,000, and you hold on to that stock, did you make any money? No, and let me tell you why. You didn't sell it. Yes, the value of said currency may be higher, but until you sell it, you haven't made any money off of it. The same thing is true if you buy $1,000 worth of a stock on one stock of something and the price drops overnight to $1. Did you lose $999? Not unless you sell it. It's perceived value, not actual value. So the Supreme Court ruled a while back ago that getting stocks instead of dividends, it's a perceived value, and until this individual sells said stock, you can't claim it as income since they didn't actually receive any money from it. They just got stocks. They didn't actually get any money. Now, granted, just like they demonstrated in with the Dobbs case overturning Roe versus Wade, yes, they could, do this again, but this is pretty dangerous waters that we're looking at on here, because do you really want the federal government going into your house, looking at your baseball cards, looking at your Jordans, looking at your comic book collection, and by fiat, them putting a price tag on it and claiming that you owe them money based off of this? It's like, I'm sorry, man, that if I buy this, for, let's just say $10, okay? There was sales tax attached to this already. I own it. It's mine. I paid my taxes. I paid it once. I have no need to pay taxes on it anymore. I paid a tax to buy a piece of property. This, my vape, using money that was taxed. So I used taxed money to pay for an item that I was charged taxed on. And if the dollar value of this goes up, they're going to say that I owe more in taxes. Well, who's to say the value went up? Did I sell it? No, it's perceived value. It's not actual value. It's only actual value whenever I sell it. But they want to go through and put a dollar amount, not based off of anything, but their own perception of how much this should be worth. Do you really trust the government to say this is worth that? And here's the thing, man. I mean, you know, are you going to get any of that back? I mean, how quickly are they going to be next year? Let's say, the value of this goes from, this low number to a really, really high number 1 year, and then it drops back down to a really, really low number. Are they really going to be fast in the whole, it's worth way less now? Is this going to be, how often are they going to evaluate your property? Are you going to have to pay more taxes on it whenever you sell it versus, I've been paying taxes on it for every single year that I've owned it. And that's what they want to do. I'm against this whole thing with the wealth tax. I'm against it. And you should be too. You absolutely should be against it. Holy crap, guys. All right, 2 hours, 46 minutes. I think I want to call that quits. We're done for today, man. I knew it was going to be bad, but I didn't think it was going to be this bad. Almost a 3-hour show. See, that's what happens when I go 3 weeks without doing a show. And as you can tell, I've been struggling a little bit with my voice. The 3 hours, holy crap. You see, that's why I've not been on for 3 weeks. My voice has not been the best. This is the most freaking talking I've done in 3 weeks. Holy crap. Whew. This was kind of a long show, but man, I tell you what, we had a lot to go through. We had a lot to talk about. I hope you guys were able to get something out of it. I know I did. I thank y'all for stopping by. I thank y'all for being here and for participating. I really do. It is awesome, but we've got to go and bid you adieu. So y'all have yourself a great one. See you next time. This has been The Ho Ho Show. For more information, you can head to thehohoshow.com. And for the merchandise store, you can head on over to stinkpickle.com. That is stinkpickle.com. Until next time.